with that guy.
We are live. Welcome to the
Indeed.
window to our mind podcast number 13, open relationship part 1 question mark, because maybe eventually we will talk about it again. I don't know. How are you, Gray?
I'm doing good. It's another day. The sun is shining. It feels pretty awesome. I'm here. Good times.
On my end it's raining, but I do like rain. So that's fine. And
Yeah.
that's weird. That's weird because usually in December, especially in Canada where I live, there's snow and we barely add snow. I've seen more rain than snow this winter, and it's not usual. Like the
Yeah.
last green Christmas I had was 2008, which is 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's
Wow.
weird.
Yeah. Same thing is in my area, and really for the past since like 2020, we've had like a lot of very like weird like winters. Like I think in 2020 in my area in May it even snowed.
Yeah, and I had something similar. That was in 2016. We had snow in freaking June. I was like, what? Usually the last snow is in April, but this year was in June.
Yeah.
That was weird.
Yeah.
And last year was also very weird. Well, actually, yeah, 2022, not this year, like last year. It was a weird year because weather was messed up. Like we had cold until like the end of May, and usually start of May we still have a few cold like mornings and nights, but usually it warms up during the day and even in the evening before the sun goes to sleep. But last year we were cold until the end of May, which was shocking. So weather is messed up. So how are you, DC?
Last couple of days have been absolutely terrible, and yeah, I'm not doing the
Oh,
best mentally.
Well, I'm sad to hear that, but things happen, and I hope you talk to people you trust, and that's usually the thing to do.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're doing, but if this is what you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Um, anyhow, we got a very interesting topic this week, and this is the last stream we do in 2023. Um, that's amazing. I can't believe this year went so fast, and DC we almost talk like every week this
Yeah.
year,
Yeah.
like most of the week. Even if you were not like on panel and stuff, we still talk like outside of YouTube and stuff. So this year was a weird year. I enjoyed my time with everyone. Our circle is amazing. Um, I'm very grateful for the time we all spent together. It's precious time, and I liked it a lot.
Yep.
This is this is the highlight for me this year because this year has been really rough for me. But that circle we have, that community we built, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
Um, it really helps going through anything. That's how I see it. Let's hope 2024 is better for everyone. This is the best we can wish. So yeah, I added the question mark because again, I don't know. Maybe this will come back again in the future, and it will be part two, and then question mark won't be needed anymore. Anyhow, um, I'm excited for January because we got a lot of very interesting topics. I think I hope guys will enjoy it as much as me. And I wished some of the video I had seen had subtitle so guys could follow, but unfortunately they don't, and a lot of them are in French. So yeah, it's a bit sad, but it's universal. Anyhow, we are in open relationship. Question number one, I will ask it to Marvel first. What is an open relationship?
An open relationship is a relationship where you can be honest with somebody as much as you can. But yeah, and there's gonna be some good things and bad things, like normal relationships. But I think for the most part is where you can be honest, like both you and your partner are both honest and are open about everything.
Okay, well, I like your answer, but that's a unique twist, I will say. That's not necessarily what we meant, but maybe you don't know yet what we meant.
Yeah.
But I like your answer because it's still like unique and it brings some breath of fresh air. We won't all sound the same. You brought something interesting. People being open about talking about stuff, and I like it. Now I will ask Gray, what is an open relationship?
Yeah. I don't think DC is necessarily wrong. You definitely are open with each other. But generally that's to set up some kind of boundaries. And generally, it doesn't have to be a free for all or anarchy, but you set up general boundaries as to what you'll allow in your relationship as opposed to like a closed relationship. I think DC is definitely right when he's talking about like that communication thing. That would help. But I think when we're talking about open or closed, it's generally more kind of your ability to be exclusive with other people, I guess. That's kind of generally kind of the slang that's kind of used about this. But there's so many different ways that it can be open. Like, it could be as simple as like one person isn't able to actually do the act or whatever, say a car accident, a medical issue, so the other partner is able to go elsewhere for one need, but they're still together, as opposed to just straight up swingers, or people who are literally looking for anything and everything. I think there's a wide spectrum that could be considered open. So I don't know. I do have kind of some questions for you as well. But could it be as simple as essentially when you're dating, but it's not exclusive? Like I've definitely dated a couple of girls who were dating other people. Like none of us were exclusive or anything like that. Is that open? I mean, like it's not a closed relationship. It's not you know committed. It's not exclusive. So I don't know. I think that could be a form of open relationship. Granted, it would be one of the weakest forms, but I don't know. I guess yeah. I think the definition could even include something as simple as that.
I like this spin on it, and I will say, um, if it only stays on the dating levels and people can evolve beyond that, I'm on board. Like when you're in the dating circles, as long as you don't stick there forever because you just cannot choose, I think it's fine to have options. But if you just cannot like sit somewhere and accept one of these options that should be good, in quote, then this is where I'm like, yeah, you're not someone that's good at making decisions. So yeah, so open relationship. Um, I like your spin a lot, but what is, like, to put it more bluntly or more clear for some people that may not know really about that terminology, if we can call it that way. Um, it's basically people that are polyamorous, or like people that have several partners. Um, it's having an open relationship because you're open to have other people and to sleep around, even if you're committed with someone. Um, there are some open relationships that are kind of fine time by time if you just want to experience something new with your partner. And the quote is with your partner. This is when it makes more sense for me. But hey, sometimes people are just like, oh yeah, we just pursue, we just want the pleasure right now, and we will grab anyone and everyone willing to provide that. Um, and this is open relationship. It's basically you don't have the boundary of, oh yeah, it's just you and I, and it's just our relationship. It goes beyond just two people usually in open relationships. So they want as many partners as they want, or sometimes they will limit themselves, but it's rare. Like if they are in an open relationship, that means you're like, oh yeah, you can go have some bedroom fun with that person and me at the same time. So yeah, that's basically an open relationship. So there's many form of it. Um, and yeah, um, I won't hide it. I don't like the idea. And it's funny because I've seen a video about it in French again, sadly, and that just reinforced my point of view on that. Um, anyhow, question number two. Um, what are the benefits of an open relationship starting with Gray?
So there could be a bunch of benefits. If you know that that's truly what you desire and you think that that is what could make you happy, you'd go into it with honesty, like DC was talking about. If you are completely open and honest with what you want out of a partner and what you're willing to give, and if they decide that, that is exactly what they're willing to do and they're willing to, do that with you, the benefit is you could have like a very mutual, very happy relationship, and you could both be completely satisfied with what you want. And then apparently, you would probably be experiencing things outside of that relationship. And if you're both okay with that, cool. It seems like you might have a very fruitful relationship, and there may actually be more honesty because of these boundaries that get put up. And, perhaps this would stop some of the traditional problems that do plague, traditional relationships. I'm sure it would happen in these as well. But, you worry about a partner straying or doing something that they wouldn't tell you about, kind of hiding something. Maybe this would get you past that in some way in some special relationship. So I don't know. There could be perceived benefits, but yeah, I think you just need to know yourself, and if you could handle that, it sounds like both I and you were saying that we couldn't. I think there's a time in my life where maybe I could have handled that, or thought that that would be a viable option. Just from getting to know myself, no, I can't deal with that. But maybe it would have helped me perceive some sowing of wild oats or whatever. But yeah, I don't think it's for everybody. But if it is for you, maybe it could be a really healthy relationship.
Yeah. And I will specify something. And it's sad to say, but sometimes whether it's a guy or a girl doing it, because I think anybody can do it, but well, they shouldn't do it, but they still do, is sometimes you're in an open relationship, your partner just doesn't know it. It becomes really toxic because that means you will constantly cheat on that person. And if the person doesn't know, that's really disgusting. And if they do know, that also hurts them. So in that case, you're like, if you're prone to like have these open relationship, I'd highly recommend you to tell it to your partner straight up, so he doesn't end up, or she doesn't end up disappointed in the end. And if you try to hide it, eventually it will come up, and it's a rude awakening. I don't know anybody that has self-respect that will wake up one day and learn that, oh, that person is not faithful to me, and I still love that person despite that. I just don't see that happening. Now, sometimes it does. Like they have kids, so they will stick together for the kids. but even there, their couple is destroyed. Even if they are just there, they're there because the kids is here. Without kids, I don't know. So I stepped away from the question. I will get back at it right now. What would be the benefit? Well, um, you seek for instant fun and pleasure and that kind of stuff, and you're not shy about it, so you don't like bottle it up. You don't make it toxic. You express what you want, and this could be a good benefit if both person know what it implies and involves, and what's the true matter. It's good when people know what's going on. It can really help to have like a healthy um, bedroom fun life because YouTube ate some words. um, but yeah, that's the only benefit I could see. It's like having options. But again, do you really need to be on a semi-committed relationship to have a lot of options? I just feel like they don't gel well together. It just doesn't work in my mind. And this is how I feel toward a lot of these open relationship and these people wanting that and saying this is what they seek for. I feel like they want an excuse to have fun with everyone without being judged or told, oh, you cannot be satisfied by one person. But again, some people, I can know and tell that some people may truly like that, and it's not a cover to hide shame, but in some cases it's hiding shame because they know that they will be judged. They know that people are not necessarily on board with that kind of behavior. And that goes back to what I said earlier about some people are in open relationship and the other one just doesn't know until he learns the truth. And this is one of the most hurtful thing that can happen to someone. And I speak by experience because I got cheated on. So yeah, um, really, I just don't see other benefits outside of like you having a bit more fun with more diversity of partners. That's the only thing I see. Oh, maybe I could see another thing, but again, that's a case by case. Uh, in some cases, a benefit could be no longer having that kind of jealousy when someone sleeps elsewhere. Like, it won't necessarily be a point of breakup. It won't create as many breakup if both person involved in that open relationship want it and they don't change their mind about it. So yeah, no more breaking up if someone sleeps elsewhere. But again, people change. So at some point you may be like on board with that, and later on you realize you're no longer on board with that. Then boom, breakup happens, divorce happens, and that kind of stuff. So yeah, this is like a double-edged sword. Um, so DC, what would be your response to number two, being what are the benefits of an open relationship?
I think some of the benefits of an open relationship could be like what you just said, like, having fun, doing bad things, and having no shame in it. Or, yeah, that's one that's one aspect. Other aspects would be like, let's see. I think that's just what comes to my mind.
Yeah, it's really hard to pinpoint that, and I could say like if we had someone on the panel that is into one and that wanted it and that the partner wanted that as well, we could have a very different discussion because we would have people that experienced it and that wanted that. So they see more benefit than us. It's obvious there's more. We just don't see it because it's just not
Well,
us.
No, I mean, like, there's a ton of benefits that kind of come from it. Like, so I've definitely talked to people that were more open, and we kind of considered, dating or whatever. But yeah, like it was kind of more of an actual talk of like what your boundaries are, like what is acceptable. Where I don't think I've had that in like a normal relationship. We had to kind of figure that out kind of as we went. It wasn't like, okay, am I going to be comfortable with you doing like X, Y with somebody at work? Like if everyone's going out, are you comfortable with somebody going out with people of the opposite sex at work or something like that? I don't know that I necessarily discussed that like in a normal relationship, but in the potential relationship with this person that was more open, I don't know, like those boundaries actually did get talked about. So I don't know. There could be like literally more openness in every possible way, including communication. I think there are a lot of benefits for a certain type of person, but it's definitely not for everybody.
I agree, and like one of the downside of that, uh, not without like necessarily answering yet question number three is some people they just feel like they are out of option and they will grab someone and they won't necessarily be opened as much as their partners, but because their partners is open, they will kind of accept it because they fear loneliness. They will accept it because they're like, it's this or nothing, and they won't be comfortable with it at all, but just because maybe they care for that person enough, they will like stick around and like shove it up, and it's sad, and it will be increasing because people are just that simple. They just like, I think we are old fashioned and that's why we think our way, but like outside of our bubble, I think a lot of people are like, it's just the moment that matter. You only live once, and you need to like live at the fullest, and this includes diversity of partners. And I do agree, like you only have one life, like you gotta fulfill that life. But I just feel like having so many partners doesn't fulfill anything. It's just a facade. It's not a true connection. How can you pretend you have a genuine, true love connection with many people? Like
I don't
sometimes
know
it's
because it really depends on the type of relationship, but a lot of them aren't you're open to everybody. It's like you talk to your partner like, "Hey, I'm kind of digging this person. Would you care if I went out with this person?" Like I don't know, there still are boundaries. It's not just like anarchy. There's a whole bunch of different flavors of this, but what I've definitely heard is, a lot of them they still need to get like kind of permission from their partner and they need to make them aware of everything and they need to kind of get approval throughout the entire thing. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's just, you get everything and everyone. Um, but I don't know. For some people, that's kind of what they're looking for. Like they feel more confinement in like the thought of being with one person only for the rest of their lives. Um, I don't know. I guess I can understand that from like a young person's point of view, but I don't know. I think people kind of change over time and they might not truly know what they want at any given time. But I don't know. I can see at a time where this might have appealed to me.
yeah, like personally, it would never have for me. But again, I see that, so I'm not saying like it's wrong or anything. Do you? I will do me. But um, yeah, it's unique because sometimes it's really hard to love one person. So sometimes with these weird polyamorous relationship, I call them weird because it's
Abnormal. Like it's not the usual relationship out there. Like,
yeah,
traditional is traditional for a reason. Um, but I don't know. Like a lot of traditional relationships have interesting boundaries as well. Like I don't know. There are sometimes where a man can never be alone, like in the same room as a woman, like even if it's like at work or something. That seems kind of strange.
this
I
is
don't know that.
weird. I agree.
Yeah, like I don't know that every single part of that is discussed like beforehand. Like it's probably something that kind of comes up in the relationship when it comes up, but I don't know. There are some weird boundaries with normal or traditional relationships, if you will, too. I don't know. I think with every relationship, you got to kind of agree on like boundaries. Like, Are you okay with somebody, say dancing with your girlfriend or whatever? Like, say you go out line dancing, like maybe it's not ballroom dancing or like cheek to cheek, like tango or something, but you know what I mean? Like for some people that would be way over the line. But I don't know. I think with each relationship, you kind of define where you figure that line is for each of you. And then you find somebody that hopefully agrees.
Yeah, and like the open relation, like polyamorous people, for example, I just don't understand how you can love many people. Like, uh, I can see myself being attracted by many people, but I don't see myself loving many people on the intimate level where I want like intimate like deep talk and like feeling talk with more than one person. I feel like
Yeah, but that seems like even more of like a niche type of like open relationship. I don't know, or you get into like the thruples or something like that. Like it gets even way more niche than that. Oftentimes it's like, I have this particular boundary. This act is okay with like this person. That seems to be more of like the normal type of open or like swinging relationship, but it's not just like you can get anything, anytime like that. I don't know. Like that person would be like a doormat. It seems like, most people would have some sort of boundaries of some kind, even in a perceived open relationship. But perhaps I'm wrong, and that's just the tame open relationships I've experienced or heard of.
yeah, and I've seen other really sad cases, and we will go into downsides at the moment, and I will be the one starting on downside. So, question number 3: what are the downsides of an open relationship? So, I will share one of the story I heard in a video in French I've seen again. In this video, we had like 3 different cases. We had like case number 1, both person were like polyamorous and um like they loved each other apparently, but they were also authorized to like sleep around like the guy and the girl, and they also had like that third person and that like triplet, or I don't know how they would call it in English, but they were like 3 persons, and like they are fine like knowing when the other one is sleeping with the other one. That was like that was one of the situation. And another one was like um 3 people that also had like one other outside of that circle, if you can call it that way. And um there were many people outside of that circle, like they had like they all considered each other these 3 like main, but they also had their side. And in this case, um these people, um in this specific case, were all not necessarily in the standard of beauty or attractiveness. Um, they were like overweight, and their face were not that good looking, and they didn't seem like um, people that have success outside of that kind of bubble. So they're basically surrounded by people like them, and it's it's fine the sense of community where it's okay to like resonate with people that share your state of mind, but it's also sad because some of the people in that circle were said to be low esteem. Like what I mean by there is their self esteem was really bad, and they were not really well. But that relationship kind of helped them. But what I want to go with this point is, if you're in that circle that promotes that, you cannot raise your self esteem, because you are what you eat. Um, like to in order to get better and change your behavior, you would need to go out of that circle. But would you really go out of that circle if that circle is accepting of you? That's the true question. So the downside is like you become, in some cases, not everyone, but in some cases you become like enslaved by that dynamic of open relationship. Am I clear, or I sound crazy, or my English is not good enough to like elaborate on that?
Oh, you sound pretty clear, and yeah, I completely agree.
So okay, at least DC understands. So
Yeah.
yeah, like you became basically enslaved by that circle you are in. And it's sad because the third story is a very similar story where it's a guy that started really loving the person, and the other person decided one day, oh, let's have an open relationship. And now the guy is like, I didn't want to lose her, so I told her yes, but I'm not comfortable with that, and I disagree with that. But I don't want to lose her because I love her. So again, it's a second case where you become enslaved to your relationship, and this is so sad. Um, it's not comfortable, but hey, you suck there. And another downside is if Miss becomes pregnant. I know they are DNA tests, but then each time she would get pregnant, you would need DNA tests. And what if you, because the other are more fertile than you, if you cannot have kids with that person, and it's always the others, wouldn't that be really hard for you as a donor? Like, I want kids, but the other one that are also in that polyamorous state, they are more fertile than me. Um, that may sound harsh, but this is like selective nature. This is selection of nature, or I don't know the exact word. Is there a better word? DC, do you know a better word to?
No, no.
Okay, but do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
yeah, I know
like
what you mean.
nature selecting like the best. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's another really sad case. Where, oh, you're not as fertile as the others, so you won't have kids.
Yeah.
Um, Another downside is jealousy. Maybe eventually you'll be like, oh, I know that guy or I know that girl, and they have more to offer than me. So I'm scared to lose the person now because maybe the person will just fly over that other person roof instead of staying with me. So jealousy is one thing that could stay. And the other thing is, and maybe I will sound crazy there, but the other thing is, since people believe and pretend they create so many connections, are these connections solid? Are these connections valuable? Or it's just like, oh, it's another one? Do they really care, or do they lie to themselves and they say, oh, I care, but they don't really care deep inside? So that's the other kind of question with open relationship. And the other thing is the normalization of that. It's worrying for me because I don't want that, but I know the numbers of people that want that increases. So it's like, will I be stuck alone because all these people want several partners and I don't? That's maybe an indirect um, downside of that. But again, people do what they want. But it's just worrying as someone that doesn't want that. So, because I haven't heard of Gray in a long time, I will ask you, Gray, question number
Yeah.
3.
Well, I
What
think
are
everything that you just mentioned, like, I think that is a valid concern, but I think that also goes with like a traditional or monogamous relationship. Like, how many of those end in people cheating? How much paternity in a supposedly monogamous relationship is in question? Somebody, lying to you or lying to themselves, that also comes along with it. I think these are all like valid concerns in every single type of relationship.
yeah,
If you're getting with somebody in your early 20s, like, do you really know what you want for the rest of your life? Are you going to somehow, possibly evolve, or are you going to be the same person in 10 years and 15 years? Do you know that, the decision that you made in your 20s is the correct decision for your entire life? I think you'd go through that in any relationship, whether it's, monogamous or open. But I think, making it open, you would have so many more potential points where any part of this could fail, where, there could be more jealousy, there could be more, you find that you need more from another partner, that you're not getting enough, that you prefer something else. Like, of course, all of those are issues. And it seems like it would make so many more weak spots to this particular relationship. Although, like, there is the potential that you are the type of person that, this is for, and that you couldn't commit to one person and you need certain, I don't know if you want to call it like release or variety, whatever you want to call that. Maybe
diversity of
this would
partner.
prevent you from, yeah, I guess you could try and be progressive, say diversity of partnership. I mean, something like that. Yeah, maybe you would be protecting somebody from heartbreak by telling them at the beginning, this is what I need. The problem is, how often do you know exactly what you're going to need in the future? Oftentimes we don't know exactly what we're going to feel until we get in that moment. Perhaps you think you can handle this, and it turns out you can't. You're getting way more jealousy than you had ever anticipated. It's bringing up new feelings, like, oh, this person is now listening to like even this type of music. They didn't like it before. Are they getting this from their new for like whatever that's going to be? There's going to be new feelings that you didn't necessarily anticipate. You can't logic your way through a relationship. Like, sadly, even in monogamous ones, there's going to be unanticipated kind of, not butting of heads, but different ideas or different opinions on how the relationship should be. So you're going to have to navigate that with somebody else. I think there's just more potential for weak spots where a relationship could break down. The more people or junctions you have in this, it does feel like there is potential weak spots for it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it just takes a certain type of person, and they're actually way more open than the rest of us.
Yeah, maybe. Um, Anything else to add to that question before I turn the mic to DC?
No, I think that's about it. I do agree with all of your concerns. I just don't know that they wouldn't necessarily be there. Like, the paternity thing,
But
like,
again, is yeah,
hopefully you'd be secure, but, is the person actually going to be honest with you? Maybe there is a way that there is more honesty in this open thing. Like, hey, I saw someone I was really interested in today. What do you think? Like, maybe there's some way that that works for some people, but I don't know. I know for me, feelings I didn't necessarily anticipate in like my teens or 20s definitely would come up in that, and I know I couldn't handle it. That's not for me.
yeah, and like by experience, like at least for the first kid, because I eventually, if I find someone, like I want more than one kid. For the first kid, I will at least double check DNA stuff
Yeah,
because by experience I got cheated on. So like I always have that insecurities inside of me, and I think I need someone to prove me wrong to really change my mind. You know what I mean? Um,
yeah,
like I,
I
I
get it.
I know we can be lied to, and like yeah, I just know that we can be lied to, and this is
For sure.
always somewhere in my like. I know not everyone is the same, but I know a lot of people are the same. So
Yep.
that's my thought process. Like everyone has their own like experience. Everyone is their own person, but again, like one does not make the rule, but it's a warning if I can be precise or clear on that. Um, so DC, what would be the downside of an open relationship?
Yeah, I think like what you just said, like cheating, um, maybe child neglect, and another, because of how YouTube is crazy when it comes to words. I'm not even gonna say it, but let's see, drugs and all that. Yeah, I think open relationships, those are definite downsides as well.
Yeah. And maybe another downside is now that you got all of these options, when some of these options close up and now you're back to one or two option, you may feel depressed, disappointed, or not fulfilled. And it's like when you're hungry and like you need to eat, but the more you eat, the more you eat. It's the same idea there. Well, I think, I don't know. That may be another risk. You're like, oh, I'm used to have all of these options, and now I'm older and I'm not as pretty as before, or now I have a stupid attitude or something, and now that number decreases. That may
I mean,
affect
it
you.
could be, but it could also be as simple as, like you get in a car crash, so now you don't have like function below like the waist or something, and you've committed your life to somebody, but you want them to feel, taken care of. I don't know. I could see allowing my partner to stray in that scenario. Don't
Yeah,
get me wrong, that seems very niche or something like that, but it doesn't necessarily mean like now that you've experienced it, like you need more and more. Maybe. But there's always that kind of risk with a normal relationship too. Perhaps, the relationship that they have at the office, like it's just more enticing. This person seems to care more. There's, a new broom sweeps clean, so to speak. Like there's just this infatuation. Like that doesn't necessarily only come from sleeping with somebody. Like it definitely can come from, just being around somebody. Perhaps you prefer their company. That could be, devastating to a relationship. I don't know. Like, I get what you're saying. I don't know that this isn't every relationship's kind of problem. It just seems like there might be more points where this could happen in a open relationship.
yeah. Um, Again, I agree with you. Like everything we said before can also be applied to other relationship, monogamous or whatever. Uh, because relationship basically it's the same idea. It's just different format. It's just different approach and way of thinking. But they all go down to like people acting with people and people being with people. It's just like different mind state, I guess. So anything else to add to question number 3 before we move on to the last question? I guess not. So question number 4. Do you know any stories where open relationship worked and or didn't work? Without, of course, like giving away names or stuff. Like you can go into detail, but not too many detail, if you know what I mean. So I will ask the question to DC first.
No, I know, like, yeah, I don't know any relationships that are like that.
I actually do know one from a TV show we will eventually cover once I'm done the translation. And I won't go into any details because I don't want to spoil anything, but this was interesting. That was my first experience on the matter, watching this TV show in that moment. And um, yeah, um, it was a good story in that bigger story. Um, what about you, Gray?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of strange because like we're saying, are there any examples of, like open relationships that work where it's like, how many examples of closed relationships really work? It seems like about 50% of the marriages end in divorce, which is sad, but countless others like in dating all end. Yeah, I can think of quite a few successful, like open to a degree relationships. I used to be in bands with a bunch of dudes. I had a couple guitarists who their girlfriends were kind of okay with what happens on the road. Like, just don't tell me about it. Don't let anything like get thrown in my face. Don't disgrace me. But while you're gone, I don't care. When I was in college, there were a few, like long distance relationships where it kind of seemed like they were okay with, as long as when we're together, we're together. When we're living apart, you can kind of have your own life. I don't think that would ever work for me, but there's definitely a bunch of people that have made it work. When you think back to the 70s, there's like a lot of tale of, like key parties or swingers, things like that. And it seems like a lot of couples kind of experimented with that, but it didn't exactly like break up their marriage or anything.
Yeah.
Perhaps they realized, it's not for them. So is it a taste of openness? And then I guess with openness, like, would someone who's really staunchly traditional, who's thinking, you cannot even be alone in the same room with somebody of the opposite sex. So is everybody else's relationship, like anybody who works in like a modern office or whatever, is that considered an open relationship to them? I don't know. Like, I think there's degrees of openness and boundaries. And I think as long as you agree with it with your partner and you're able to kind of modify it as you go, and what you find out your actual feelings on something are not what you think you're going to feel, I think it definitely can be successful. Sadly, you can think of a lot more like people who are together with one partner, until like their 90s or whatever, than you can think of like, Hugh Hefner's or whatever, where he had kind of one lady that he was traditionally with, but then a bunch of other bunnies. I don't know. It does seem like that is much rarer, but that doesn't mean that it wouldn't work. But I don't know that everybody's going to tell you what they do in the bedroom. I think there might be a lot more relationships that are considered open to some people who are very closed than one might expect. But yeah, I think there's countless examples of degrees of openness that work for certain people.
Yeah, that's a very fair point. Like, we brought maybe 2 or 3 benefits, like the sense of community in some cases. But yeah, I think this is a very interesting topic, and I'd like to thank D-Lord for the idea. Or was it you? I forgot which one.
I think
Either
we
you
both
or
kind of
D-Lord.
talked about it. It was kind of going on from the whole like Destiny divorce situation that was going on. But yeah, I think we both kind of discussed it afterwards. But
Yeah.
yeah, D-Lord in spirit for sure.
Yeah. So with that being said, I do think you have a video. Am I right on that?
Yeah, sure. If you'll give me 1 second, let me just grab the thing. Sure. Yeah, I got a video right here, kind of on that same subject that we were talking about.
So today, guys, we're going to be talking about one of the most expected and predictable relationship dramas that everyone on the internet saw coming. We're talking about
it
streamer
working?
Destiny
Oh,
and the
yeah.
demise
Oh.
of his open marriage.
Yeah, that's a girl name.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it is.
Shocking. The marriage that allowed each partner to sleep with whoever they wanted, whenever they wanted, didn't work out. So if you do not know who he is, Destiny
Yeah,
is an
so
OG streamer.
ooh, sorry, did we both pause it there at
I
the same
think
time?
we did.
Sorry, yeah, just kept going back and forth. So it kind of sucks. Like I feel like she's framing this particular relationship as it's the relationship that we all knew was going to fail because they get to sleep with whoever they want whenever they want. And that's not the boundaries that they set up for their relationship. So I feel like that's a little bit unfair the way that she's kind of framing this. They are open, but they do have to actually talk to their partner and get approval, supposedly. Now, both of them have gone over that boundary and did upset their partner, but the way that she's framing it isn't what they've kind of agreed on and what they're saying their relationship is. So I don't know. That just feels a little insincere to me to kind of frame it that particular way. And she kind of keeps going on that. Normally, I kind of like the way that she frames things, but yeah, this just seems very biased.
Yeah, I actually agree with you a lot. And I think I've seen this video to the end because I was curious after we had that talk. And I think I also added that video to the playlist. So yeah, like, we cannot predict the future, right? If you try to predict the future, you increase the chances of this happening. And it's sad, but that's the truth. That's like, there's a name in French that's the halo effect. I don't know in English what would be the the exact word, it would be like the precognition. Is the word precognition?
Yeah, I think like precognition,
We could call it like
like a
the
precog.
precog effect. I can bet in
Hmm.
psychology that's one thing, but yeah, I mentioned that because basically in French it's called the halo effect, which means like if you believe something, you increase the chance of this happening. So yeah, it's
For
simple.
sure.
It's very easy. It's like um, people who believe in themselves are most likely to succeed, and people who don't. That's the same idea. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, when someone frame it that way, it clearly give away pre-con vibes. I don't have much more to
I
say.
think so. And she sets up a couple things like that here. But she kind of explains who Destiny is if you're not too familiar with him.
I'm
But
not.
he used to be a professional gamer in StarCraft, and then he kind of transferred into the political and debate side of YouTube and everything. But he's one of the original streamers. So he's been around forever. But yeah, we'll give her a chance to kind of explain who he
I
is.
For me, making
can't
content for over a
pause.
decade. I've reacted to some of
I consider that a downfall when you swap guns and you're like you have that idea and like you're like, oh, f that idea, let's do something else. Like
Well, I mean, like, how long do you think you could be like the top professional gamer? Like, it seems like the tops only last like a few years, then it seems like somebody else kind of comes in. So
yeah,
I don't know. It seems like he then took that into political realm, and then for where he was talking about politics, people wanted to debate him, and he became kind of, you know, I think it's shown adaptability and kind of evolution. But I could understand what you're saying. Like, yeah, he didn't stick with any one particular thing, but it kind of evolved into he is kind of the top streamer right now. It's I don't know. I really respect what he's done.
yeah.
He kind of invented a lot of this
Well,
streaming.
that looks fun. Good job on him, I guess. You can play now.
Well, you can thank him for all those like thought girls and everything like that. He was the original.
Oh,
one.
really? Okay.
his stuff in previous episodes, but he and his wife, Melina, were very publicly in an open marriage where either of them
Pause.
could sleep with whoever they wanted.
I don't get
So-
it. You
Again, she's saying like is very publicly and can sleep with it. She's really framing this hard, and it's not that they have certain boundaries on who they can, but they're not going out there and flaunting their marriage. Like everywhere that he's gone to do an interview, people ask him about this because it is one aspect of their relationship. But they haven't been going out saying like everyone needs to do this. This is the only way to have a relationship, and that's how she keeps framing it, which sucks. Like it seems more often he has to defend his style of relationship choice as opposed to he's going out there and like, you know, waving the flag of open relationship.
and you know, I think it's weird. There's something weird going on there. Not necessarily with the video, but more like with the case of open marriage and stuff. Like, why?
Well, in his particular case, apparently she hit him up on Instagram and she was already in an open relationship and she basically messaged him and he came out to be like the other in her and another person's open relationship. And then she basically chose him. And she was living in New Zealand at the time. The only way that she could live in America is if they went for like the green card thing. So they got married and they were together for 5 years. So it's not like, you know, this is just some like fly by night thing. But she was in her early 20s. He's now in his like mid to early 30s. So I mean, like there is like almost a 10-year like age difference. I don't know. Like at 20, I don't know if I'd know everything that I'd want for the rest of my life. I didn't get married at, 20. I fear if I had, it would not have ended well. I don't think I truly knew what I wanted back then.
Same here. And since we talk about marriage, that's hilarious because yeah, Monday coming back from a family dinner, my stepfather is like, "Oh, you're 27. Remember when your mother married me? She was 28." Like telling me I need to hurry up, and I was so uncomfortable there. I was like,
Yeah.
first of all, like, if I really want to talk about why, I would make her cry because she was right behind me, and I would just make the evening like shitty and stuff. So I just quietly said, "Yeah, that's a fact. She was married, but I'm not, and that's fine." So like, I feel like some people,
It's just so shitty. Like, I guess it's okay to tell a single person like, "Ah, you need to get married. Like the clock is ticking, but like, wouldn't it be against the rules or
yeah,
like a social faux pas to tell somebody like, hey, you really need to get divorced. Like your relationship sucks. Like, I don't know. That's just weird that they can push it one way, but it is completely taboo and off limits to push it the other way. I've definitely gotten that same awkwardness. Like, "Oh, well, when are you going to get married?" Like, I don't know. It seemed like generally grandparents or parents that kind of push that shit,
yeah.
but
And now it's
it
my
sucks, man. It
stepfather.
is a weird
I was
pressure.
like, it's my
Yeah, that's a weird
stepfather. It's
pressure.
like, and on top of that, he's older than her. So like, and by at least like 5 or 6 years, probably more. So when he got
There you
married,
go. You
it
got like
was
5 or 6 more years, man. Like, you should just throw that in his face.
yeah. But I didn't because I didn't want to make things convoluted or anything. I was like, man, like me, I don't believe in marriage, and I think the biggest reason why my mother's marriage so far has been working, because they are together for like 15 years now, it's because my mother valued marriage a lot because her parents did. Hell, my grandparents, which is my mother's parents, they have been married for over 50 years. They started dating, they were like late 10s, like early 20s, and they are still together. And this is why my mother values that so much. So I'm like, do these kind of girls still exist outside of my family bubble? Because I know the divorce is kind of high everywhere. 50% of the marriage end up in divorce. So if your parents divorced, it's kind of biology and science at the same time that you have higher chance into divorcing yourself. It's not like, again, we go back to halo effect. If you believe in your marriage, you're less likely to divorce. So like, if your parent divorce, like, don't start thinking you will also divorce, because then you'll make it true. But um if your parents were like that, they are your example. That's why there's some kind of decay there where people just don't stick together anymore, because everyone example is like, oh look, my parents separated, oh look, my parents divorced, and that kind of stuff. It's a trend. It's normalized everywhere. um and this is why personally I don't think I will ever get married, because I'm like my mother, and I will value that commitment a lot, and I don't trust enough the other people to do so. And maybe I will set some kind of rule where if we are together 20 years, then we can get married. I won't get married after a year or two,
Wow.
because,
Harsh, man. 20 years for marriage? Wow.
yeah,
They really got to put in their years.
yeah, they need to prove me that they will stick by me, because otherwise, what's the point? Like, it used to be, whether you're sick, poor, or you would live with that person until one of you two die. That was the idea of marriage and wedding, and this is what I believe in, and I also think this is what my mother's believes in. um and again, my stepfather is somewhat traditional, so because he is like in the same kind of mindset as my mother, I don't think they'll divorce. But again, he's my stepfather, so this means a past relationship didn't work between my father and my mother. So that's the catch. That's also like that kind of scar I carry, because my parents separated when I was younger. um So yeah, I don't believe in marriage anymore because there's just too many divorce. Um,
Well,
and
can I
a lot.
ask you, like, what is it that you'd get on year 20 that you wouldn't get out of like year 1 or year 2? Like, do you think it would really take like 20 years for you to trust somebody?
I think to be more secured because I'm like, if that person has been with me with 20 years, that means that person will most likely stay with me like marriage would be, if you know what I mean. You cannot tell like after a year that you're with someone. I don't think you
No,
can.
but like after a degree's worth, like 4 years, do you think you could tell?
I don't think so. Uh,
Yeah.
4 years is not enough in my mind. Like even 20 years is very arbitrary, but it gotta be long because I've seen lots of couples crash and burn after 10 years. That's why I'm like, yeah, 20 years, man. That's I think that's a staple. Now, of course, people change, right? Maybe I will have a different speech in the future, but the way I see it, always protect yourself. And yeah, um, if people were more truthful, if people considered marriage as an option and as a lifestyle more than just let's party and pretend we love each other, I think if that was really about the engagement, the commitment, I would be all in for the idea. I would be like, not even 20 years, but it's just that people don't value that anymore. They see it as a one party. Like, it's hilarious. All in my hotel, like, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, we had that huge wedding. It costed the people making it 2.5 million. You think I'm joking? I'm not. I'm like, these people have so much money to lose, and they will end up in like a divorce, and like they will make their lawyer rich and stuff. So yeah, when I see that, I'm always shocked. I I just don't think society wants us to believe in marriage anymore because it's easy to access and now it's easy to just end.
Maybe I'm a hopeless romantic, but I gotta think that there is like that perfect partner that, you know, I'm not saying that there's only one for each person, but that you figure out that you do want the same things, that your boundaries are the same, that what you think it should be off limits, the other person thinks should be off limits as well. I don't know. I also came from a broken home, if you will. My parents separated before I was even born, or like right as I was born. So I don't know. I'm not accustomed to marriages working out, but I got to think that you shoot for the odds. Like, yeah, 50% of them fail, but the glass is half full. 50% of them are successful. You mentioned your grandparents who have been married for 50 something years. That's awesome,
Yeah.
man. There's a chance to make one of those relationships. So I don't know. I got to think, there's hope.
And also like in the other side, like my grandparents on my father's side, they also separated and they were married with each other for like probably 10 years, but they were together for a good 15 years. I I wasn't born yet when they broke up, but I've lived through their first few years separated from each other. So yeah, I've seen it all. Like I've seen divorce and I I've seen more successful marriage than failed marriage, but I will say it's because in my family, when it comes to relationship, we are very traditional. Um,
Say, you mentioned the aloe effect? Like, are you not possibly making this thing come to fruition that you can never truly trust somebody unless they've been with you for 20 years?
Well,
then you'd consider it. Like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, you're making a fair point. I do think about that a lot, all the time, actually. But it's just such a huge scar for me that because I remember the days where my parents were together, and these were amazing days. And like everything collapsed and got destroyed when they separated. And this is also why I didn't talked about that in the car when my stepfather was like, you should get married and stuff, because I know it was my mother that decided to split ways, and my father did nothing wrong. It wasn't perfect. I know my father's sin, as I keep thinking and saying, my father is special. He is faithful to people. He is not a cheater, but he has a hard time um, expressing what he really feels. Yeah, um, he feels stuff. This I know, but he won't tell you. He will like
Yeah. And
try
that
to
could be
hide it to
beyond
you.
somebody's, personal boundaries. Perhaps they need more communication than that, and that relationship wouldn't work.
Yeah.
But, maybe he does find that strong silent type that would, need that type of person or want that type of relationship. Like, that's awesome. Like, but it kind of seems like a boundary issue again. Like, hey, I'm going to need more communication than this. Like, that's just not enough for me. I think that's an acceptable ask if somebody doesn't really communicate any of their feelings. But, I'm sure there is somebody out there who doesn't want to know your feelings. So
Yeah,
I don't know. It feels like you do have to find the right person. And sadly, if an open relationship does actually get you to talk about those things, maybe it does have a leg up, even if there aren't countless examples of them being, the way for everyone.
yeah. And on top of that, my mother was someone very impulsive. Like one day, that was the fight they had, that made everything collapse, and the day after that day was the day she decided to leave, and that kind of stuff. um so like she was always impulsive. That's why I'm impressed that she's still with her current husband. But yeah, I won't go too deep into that, but yeah. um we can play the video, I guess.
Whenever they wanted, yada, yada, yada. And they were very, very proud of this publicly open relationship. So much so that they would literally go on to podcasts together just to defend their relationship and show how happy.
Boss.
So that kind of sucks. Like the way that she's again framing that, like they would in fact go on to other people's shows to defend. It's like, no, he went on to other shows like as a guest, and then they would always bring it up as a way to attack him. I don't think anyone goes on a show to defend their relationship. Like that would just be shitty. Like, isn't that just asking for the relationship to end if that's all you do?
Yeah.
It's a little dishonest, but she isn't wrong that they were on a bunch of shows defending their relationship. Like that is the truth in that statement.
Here's the thing. When you get that, when you need to defend yourself that much, maybe there's something broken in what you're doing. Just saying.
There might be. It's definitely a way that perhaps you should step back and re-examine. But it just sucks because people are going to find a way to attack your. Could people not attack your parents' former relationship and say like, "Hey, a relationship needs to have more communication"? Like what? Yes, it would suck, and that would put even more strain on the relationship to then try and have to defend your relationship in front of everybody. No, this is the way a relationship should be. It's healthy. Like I don't know. It's gonna strain everything. So that does suck. And they definitely did that on that whatever show and Lex Freeman's podcast. And I think there was a couple others where they had to defend their open relationship. So it is kind of that would be a huge pressure and a huge weight on any relationship.
And I'd say something else there that may be of value. When you're into a relationship with someone, be with that someone for that someone, and not to impress the gallery or to impress others. It should be you and whoever is involved with you that matter. Other opinion like that, like me, for example, laughing at that, I shouldn't be like the reason you break up, if you know what I mean. Um, it should be you and your partners or partner or whatever. It shouldn't be like, oh, public opinion and my couple. It shouldn't be like that. That's why I laugh hard, because I'm like, so many people want to be impressive to get attention. And they're like, oh, I do that because it's trending. No, don't do this crap. It goes back to another thing I said in the past. If I do a diet, it's not because I want to look beautiful. It's not because I want to be more attractive. It's because I want to be healthier. I do
But
that for
if you were
myself.
doing a diet and you're doing that for yourself, and then you have to go on somebody else's podcast and like, okay, defend that this diet works for everybody. It's like, well, I mean, that's not what I'm here to do. Like,
I'm here
it's a
to
bit far.
promote.
And could that perhaps strain your diet? Like, I don't know. It seems like it would add extra pressure for you to then succeed and stick to it. So I don't know.
Yeah, and it's our time right now. It's Christmas time. I still lost 5 pounds, so I'm
Hell yeah. I ate like a pig for 2 days and feel horrible now. So yeah, man, that's good on you. This is the hard season.
right now. Right now, I'm 203, so I still need to like lose a good 40-ish, 45. But I can bet I will go back to 210, because tomorrow I go up north, and even if I only stay there 24 hours, I can bet these 24 hours will be filling my stomach. Anyhow, um yeah, like, do your relationship for yourself and the other person, and not for like public eyes and public opinion. um do you want to add something else, DC?
No.
Okay, I guess we can play.
They truly were. And
Watch
how
this
clip from the Whatever podcast.
The 5 best sexual partners that I've had in my life were all the people that I were in the long-term relationships with. So like on a one-night stand, like it's
Oh my God, it's crazy. Almost like having an emotional connection with the person you're sleeping with makes an impact. Oh my God, that's insane. Almost like commitment is a good thing. Sorry. Okay, we're gonna go on. He hasn't even really gotten into the good stuff
Pause.
yet, but shock.
I like I can see what she's doing, and like, it's true that I don't think you can make as many connection. Like, I think you can be attracted to many people, but I don't think you can be connected to that many people. Any thoughts on that, Dre?
Well, I mean, it kind of depends on what you mean by that many people. So she's framing this like the only way that you can enjoy sex is, or bedroom fun. Sorry, I will stick with Maltese terms. Is if you have an emotional connection, and I don't know that that's necessarily true for everyone.
Yeah.
It does seem to be more true for women, but men and women are not the same. And I don't know that good sex or good bedroom fun necessarily entails like having a strong emotional connection. It definitely might, but he was talking more about like physically, like the best matches or whatever are when it's not awkward. You're not doing that hey, I don't know what you like. Maybe you're able to actually explain what you like. You're able to find out what your partner likes. It is more comfortable. It's not that nervous like first dance, if you will. Now this is like a seasoned partner, their moves, so to speak. That's more what he's talking about, but she's taking it more like an emotional route on this. I don't know that she's necessarily wrong for herself, but I don't know that that's what he's saying. I think she's reading into it and putting her own values into this.
I agree with what you mentioned, and it's true. Like, I think I'm like more my kind of man I am, because I do need connection there, but um good bedroom fun just for the sake of it is possible, but like connection is always better. But that's just by experience.
Yeah, it
Um,
definitely can be.
so DC, do you want to add something there?
I was gonna add when he said like the 5 people that he had or like
I think he was saying long-term relationships with.
yeah. I mean, I would have agreed had I not had like 20 or 100 people had that exact same like feelings with me, and they're all guys, by the way. None of them were girls, but yeah. And keep in mind, yes, they're straight. They're not gay or any of that. So I guess from my experience, but yeah.
Okay, well, that's very good points.
Yeah.
Are we adding more to this, or we can play?
We
No,
can
I think
play.
I think let's go on.
On a one night stand, like it's hard to know. Like one night stands aren't even that fun sexually, depending on what you're looking for.
I can agree that the longer you're with somebody, the better sex gets. So why is she not enough?
Why is she not enough?
Guys, that's Lily Ray
Pause.
Brandt. She's the
That's a question that is valid to ask, I think.
I don't know that well, you're right. I could definitely see somebody asking like, why is one partner not enough for you? But it is kind of more, it's a loaded question. I could see, so it is weird, and she did mean it that way. That's kind of how this Whatever podcast is set up, to make it confrontational and have two different sides like in the room. So they do actually have Destiny and his wife, and then she's asking him point blank in front of his wife, why isn't she enough? He actually has quite an interesting response. It's not a route that I would have gone, but he is saying that would be akin to basically saying, why isn't your best friend enough? Why do you need other friends? And it's like, perhaps you get different things. You have different connections. There's certain things that you can do with certain people. Like perhaps an open relationship could be you enjoy BDSM or something. You know, like maybe you want to be tied up, but your partner isn't into that. So they're okay with you going someplace and getting that. Well, you could actually get that need without, necessarily sleeping with every single person out there. It is a boundary that you set up with somebody else. It is open in a way. I don't know. I don't think that that's necessarily wrong if it works for both of the people and they both agree on it. I guess the third party as well. But I don't know. It seems a little strange to say, like, why isn't she enough? It's like, well, there could be plenty of reasons. Perhaps she's unwilling to do something, or she would prefer that you go somewhere else for one particular act, but there is a boundary that is okay between the two partners. I don't know. It feels a little bit like a, so do you still beat your wife type of question? Like it's very loaded in a way. It's loaded to make it seem like your partner isn't quite enough. I like the way that Destiny kind of sidesteps it by saying, the whole friendship thing. Like, well, is one friend not enough for you? You could be getting something different out of each relationship with each person.
Yeah, and I think it's a bit fascinating because this is a rising trend again. I was at work the other day, and there was that, that girl was ugly. On top of that, she had a really bad personality based on what she was showing to everyone. And at some point, I was like, oh my. What she added, she was like, oh yeah, one guy is never enough. It broke me. In my mind, it's like, how can many simp go after that person? Because that person is
what if
trashy.
it's somebody who's comfortable with, like, yeah, you're right, and that's why, like, me and my bro, like, are dating this one like, I don't know. It seems like if somebody is okay with that, more power to them. Like, I hope it works for them. Odds are it probably won't, but I don't know. The odds are with most relationships. I don't think, like, we know that about 50% of marriages unfortunately fail, but that's not every relationship, only certain relationships get up to the marriage level. So I don't know. I think the average relationship is going to fail, sadly. Is everyone like necessarily like an example of, what a monogamous or non-monogamous relationship is? I don't know. Certainly when you get enough added up, like it does seem to be some sort of data, but I don't know that each individual one can represent the whole thing.
Yeah, that's a very fair point. I agree with. Do you want to add something, DC?
No.
Okay, I guess we can play.
Starve Lady Ballers that Daily Wire just put out. She's so good, and that was just a hard-hitting question because his wife is literally sitting right next to him. Right next to him.
I mean, like,
enough, Steve?
it's kind of like asking. It's kind of like if you've got like a close friend, but then you've got other friends. Like, well, why is that one friend not enough? Because in life, sometimes variety is fun.
Yes, every woman loves
Plus-
hearing from her husband that she's just like a friend.
So
Sorry, I just wanted to let her finish that statement because I also thought that was super unfair. Did you get from that he was saying that his wife is just like his friend, or was he using it as an analogy, like, hey,
an
is one
analogy.
friend enough for somebody? He wasn't literally calling out, but she goes to that like 2 times. So sorry about that. I just wanted to let her complete that little
Yeah.
barbed comment.
So I like that analogy, but again, you got friends and girlfriends. But again, that's just me. And
Yeah, and some people, like just the fact that you talk to a female online, that may be a barrier too far. Like they will say, no, you can't do that, even if it's just on stream or if it's just to coordinate getting on stream. Perhaps that's too much for them. Is that necessarily wrong, or is that a boundary that's being set up? Like with these people, it's not necessarily like you're dating or you're courting somebody else. It's like you may have this particular thing under these particular circumstances. I don't know. Like for me, that wouldn't work. I know I would get too jealous, but if both of those, and I would, see the potential that, hey, perhaps you're going to like this person more than me, and I'm just a good enough for now. You're looking for like that perfect. I would fear this, but
me
perhaps there are two people who don't, and they agree on that. Like, who am I to say that that's wrong or that's not going to work out? Maybe it will.
Yeah, and that's the other risk, because in society today, let's be honest, and this is why we got so many divorce, so many separation now. It's because people are replaceable even in relationship. And this is the sad part. And I feel like these open relationship are also like a way to excuse it and a way to make it easier. It's like inviting the lion into that prairie where there's a bunch of meat they can eat, if you know what I mean. Like, you just invite trouble, I think. And people just don't value others as much as they used to. So when you engage in that kind of behavior, you're like, it's like asking for a divorce, I think. Am I crazy to say that? Or I could make
No,
sense?
I can definitely understand
Yeah.
where you're coming from on that.
Yeah. Like I may not agree with it, but yeah, I do know where you're coming from.
Perfect. Well, we can play now.
It
Something
is
that's
not
slightly
a
different.
friendship.
I
It is
didn't
not
say
the
marriage was
same
a
as
friendship, but
and it
marriage to
doesn't
me
have the
isn't
same
just
boundaries
about
as a
my
friend.
going and a lot of
Pause.
aspects to my marriage that I share with my wife that's really unique to my wife.
Pause. So this really showcased the average IQ of that whatever podcast, where people don't really listen to what
They're not
people are
necessarily
saying.
choosing the best and the brightest, for sure. And the debates that happen, there's often a lot of low blows that go on in there, just like this, where it seems to be an intentional misunderstanding of what he's saying.
That happens so much because I've seen so many clips of the whatever podcast, and like, I feel like, oh, like these guests are like in purpose the worst of the worst, and they don't even try to just own it. They're like, I have a shit point of view, but I'm too stupid to accept that I'm wrong, and I will just pretend I'm right until like I'm done, or until like you move on with another question. And I I feel like a lot of people, like, yes, most of the time they will be all on the same line, because they're like, we are the opposition, we are like, we represent all women, so we gotta like silence the patriarchy or some kind of trap like that. And that's what makes that podcast hilarious to watch. Just clips, you're like, bruh, this is golden stupidity, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think one of the shams of that, I do know exactly what you mean, and I agree with that. I think one of the shams of that podcast is that people keep getting lumped into, like, this is the representation for this entire group. And it's like, oh, that sucks. This is just a poor individual who's not doing a good job on this particular show.
It's
I don't know.
entertaining.
In my opinion. It is. They have it down to a science for sure.
And that's really because sometimes you see the same face coming back, you're like, okay, I know what to expect from that person.
Yep.
I think we can play now.
That I don't share with other people. My is just not one of those things.
The whole thing thing is just so bad. Somebody commented and said, you can totally see the wheels in her head moving as he talks. Yes, like saying the best sex he's had has been with people he was in a long-term relationship with, but that's
Pause.
not the case for their relationship and their marriage. You know,
Pause.
it's different because you need to have lots of different friends. And a wife is basically
It was just like there's so many stacked like lies that she just kind of put together with misframings that he's saying that the best sex in his life he's only had in long-term relationships. He did say that, and then she's saying, but it's not with her. He never said that. Like, I have watched that whole episode. He in no way hints at that or anything like that. That is just created out of whole cloth by her right now. There was that whole part where the other person said, so your wife isn't enough for you. I guess you could somehow get that interpretation from it that it's not with his wife. He's not at all saying that. He's saying that he enjoys variety, not that it's not the best that he's had. So I don't know. It just seems disingenuous. And then she also, again, goes back to the, but your wife is just a friend. And it's like, he also didn't say that. He used an analogy. Like, come on. Like, if somebody did this type of hit piece on like a Ben Shapiro or something, you know that she'd be able to point out all these things, but somehow she's doing it on her enemies. That sucks. I thought that she was fairer than that in her previous coverage, but maybe I've been kind of blind to it.
Well, it depends on what coverage. I think sometimes she's fair, others she is not, or sometimes she really believes it. Like she is clearly a right-leaning person, and I think when it comes to more like left-leaning behaviors, she has that kind of bias to like find counter argument or like misrepresent or misframe something just to push their point across. I think that's one thing that's going on with her, but sometimes she's genuine, I think. But others, as you said, she placed it on a different frame, so it sounds like, oh, look, I'm right, they're wrong. So yeah, you brought very interesting point. I agree with. Do you want to add more, DC?
Yeah, I was gonna add, like your wife's not just is just your friend. That part I was gonna add because your wife, husband, boyfriend, girlfriend are more than just your friend. Like I don't know if you see posts on the social media, but I always see posts about like relationships and how they say they're like their best friends. That's kind of how I think of when I think of a couple or relationships who are friends. It's more than just a friend, you know.
Yeah. Fair enough. I guess we can play.
a friend.
That just makes no sense. I mean, it's just bullshit.
Those really aren't the things that your wife would want to hear. Somebody else commented and said equating a marriage and friendships. Yeah, exactly. It's a very, very odd thing to equate. And like I said, at the beginning of the clip, he basically describes how being with one person longer makes him.
I forgot to mention something. I feel like going on a podcast like that is not the right place to say, oh, I had better bedroom fun elsewhere. But again, he didn't do it. But like, if someone would really do that, that would be like so sad. Especially if the person sits right across you, you're like, bruh, why? Anyhow, that's the 2 cents I wanted to add. Anything else to add on top of what I just said?
Yeah, one thing. Well, just I don't know. They regularly do have kind of red pill guys on the whatever podcast, and they are basically saying like, you know, it is okay for this. Men are built to have multiple relationships, women aren't, and like, I don't know. They do have people kind of espousing the same type of thing, and it kind of gets unchallenged. But in this particular way, where both people are apparently open to, you know, under certain circumstances, they can sleep around with the other's approval. I don't know. Like that doesn't seem like the same, and it seems like you know, they're all really attacking this one thing, but they seem to be super cool with it when like the red pill guys are essentially saying the same, but they're using like some BS like evolutionary reason for why it's okay for this and why they need to be super alpha or whatever. I don't know. It just seems a little disingenuous, but fair enough.
They know their audience. That's the thing. They know that, like, they know that a lot of men are like that, and they also know that if for example, some conservatives sees that clip, they see them like bash on that kind of modern behavior, then they would gain like followers. So that's why they dance on stuff, but they don't really stick to their guns. And that's also why I kind of dissociated myself from a lot of red pill content. So yeah, that's what I think is going on there. Anything else to add, DC?
And no, not really.
Okay, I guess you can play.
Happier. Then, once his argument falls apart and Billy Ray pushes a little further and says, so why is she not enough? He just fell back on saying that sleeping with multiple people just makes him happier. He wants the flavor of the month. It's basically just a friendship. He needs a lot of people in the friendship. And speaking of how happy and stable they obviously are.
I don't know. I just hate how she's saying it's basically just a friendship when he like went out of his way to say, no, I didn't equate it to a friendship. Like it was my analogy. Like it would be like saying, why do you need more than one friend? Like, is that friend not good enough? You're getting different things out of every different type of relationship, and perhaps there's something that you're getting out of something with another person. It doesn't mean that it's endless variety. Like it could just be essentially like one person, and perhaps it's the same person for both of them, but it's outside of their particular relationship. Apparently it has been that in the past, and it has been them together experiencing somebody else like at the same, like I don't know if they're both okay with it. Like, it doesn't seem like that's necessarily, I don't know, the evil that she's making it out to be. But maybe I'm more open-minded than her. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. You make good points. That's all I gotta say. I guess
I was reminded of this viral clip from last year where you can truly see just how much Destiny loves watching his wife flirt with other men right in front of him. Take a look.
Mel time. It's Mel time.
Okay, so we're just doing salsa. We're just going.
Get the life draining from his eyes.
Pause. I gotta agree on that. It doesn't
Really?
seem
So
happy.
is that your line? Like, if somebody was to salsa dance with your girlfriend, is that her cheating? Is that her flirting? So there's more than a body length between the two of them. Like, it's literally salsa dancing. So I'm not a dancer. I have dated dancers in the past, and I haven't cared, like, you know, if like they'll take me to the bar, I can see them. I guess some people could consider that cucking of some kind. But I don't think dancing is necessarily flirting. Like, they're not exchanging numbers. They're not going home. If she line dances with somebody, if she salsa dances with somebody, like, okay. Like, I am secure enough to know that, you know, that's not now a new relationship that is formed and they're not going off. This is literally Destiny's friend Abba. So I happened to see this stream when it happened, and people were giving him shit. He does rightfully call this in just a second. But his friend Abba came one time to the US. He's Canadian, and he was on stream, and he happened to mention that he salsa dances. His wife happened to hear that, and she says, I love salsa dancing. Steven doesn't dance. Destiny is Steven. So the chat basically said, okay, dance. So they did. I don't think that's necessarily flirting. Like, is that a line too far for you? Like, if
It depends on
another man danced with your girl, is there going to be a fight?
It depends on many like context. Context number one: is it the first time they meet? If so,
apparently in person, yes. Like, he has met them on stream, but yeah, like Abba has met them twice, and we're going to see both of them in this clip. But yeah, he has met them twice in real life. And that's it. Well, her once. This is the only time.
If that's the first time they ever meet, I'm like, okay, that's fine. But here's the context. If that's dancing with others is a way of flirting, for example, your girlfriend or the other person, if you know the other person, one of these two invite the other for dancing. Is it flirting for the person that invited? It definitely one of the two. If one of the two
came out of a conversation where Abba was talking about, like, what do you do for your like hobbies? Like, what do you do aside from streaming? And he's like, oh, I love to salsa dance. I go out and salsa dance. It's like, really? Do you have a lot of friends that do that? He's like, no, I just usually dance with older ladies. Like, there is no flirting involved. They're usually like in their 60s to like 70s. You know, like, it's kind of by a senior place. There is no flirting involved. I just enjoy dancing. And then that's when Mel, his wife, happened to hear that. And it's like, Okay, well then why don't you dance? I don't know. It's really weird. It wasn't flirty at the time, but like the chat made a huge deal of this.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of weird. But I was just wondering if that's the line because you seem to have an opinion on it from just seeing this like kind of clip out of context of like, okay, these guys are dancing behind him and it's zooming in on his face with the meme music. What do you think? And then they're even going to draw a tear in his eye
Yeah,
in just a
yeah.
second.
Well, again, it depends on the context. If this is a way of flirting, uh, I would draw the line there. I would be like, yeah, don't flirt. Like, if you don't want me, if you want the other one, perfect, go for it. I won't keep you, but I won't stay with you. Um, but yeah, if it's flirting, it's where it's kind of wrong. But that's the context, like.
So is flirting completely off? Like, so I don't know. I used to be like in a band, and a lot of girls would kind of flirt with, but like my partner would be, you know, secure enough to know that I'm not going to like flirt back or whatever. But would that be like a line too far for you? Like if say somebody else came up to your girl and was like trying to flirt with her, is that now like immediately like this sucks, or would you know like in some situations it kind of comes with the territory or whatever?
If
I don't know. Is it something that you could ever be okay with? Because it seems like you're
if
saying like if dancing is flirting, hell no. I'm
if
assuming if she ever takes any of the advances, that's a
yeah,
no. But
yeah, like
being in a flirty situation,
if that's the other person that does that, and for example, my girlfriend or whatever doesn't react to that, that's fine. But if she played the flirting game in front of me like that, I would see it as some kind of disrespect. I would talk to the person for sure, and I would see a pattern if that comes back again and again. I would be like, because of my past experience, I would be like on the fence toward that. Um, but that's because of my experience, like
fair enough.
communication
Well,
is
everyone's gonna have their own boundaries.
communication is important. And again, if it's just like one-sided, random guy want to flirt with my girlfriend, but she doesn't have it, and she clearly is not interested, and make it clear for him, then it's not her fault. She did what she could, like she cannot be held accountable for someone else's action, but she can be accountable for her own action. So if there's a pattern of like she's reacting to flirt, like maybe in front of me, this is like the kind of boundaries she has, but like if I'm not around, maybe she has none. That's the kind of question in my mind. And again, that's coming from someone that got cheated on. Two of my ex cheated on
For
me.
sure. Well, I could
And
definitely see, people having different boundaries. Like, like if you ever like even talk to somebody who's flirting with you, like that's too far. That's a line too far.
depends what you
Like if you
talk
ever
about.
accept somebody's dance or whatever, that's a line too far. I could definitely see that. And you would want to work that out with your partner so that you do have an agreement on it. And it's not just like a surprise explosion when you get to that. I
Yeah,
don't know. What
communication.
if the openness of like what you're willing to have in a relationship, I don't know. I'm just saying with a lot of more traditional relationships I've been in, that wasn't a discussion. Like you found out about it when you get there. And I don't
Yeah,
know. Maybe there is an advantage to discussing what you are open with.
yeah, and sometimes like cheaters and secrets, it goes deeper than just like physical affection for someone else, and like sleeping with someone else. Like someone that keeps lying to you is someone that destroy your trust. And if that person constantly does it again and again, I consider that cheating, to be honest, because they're not being honest. And what do cheater do? They are not honest. They don't tell the truth. And yeah, that's how I see it. Liars are cheaters. But again, um, some cases like they're so bad at lying that with who they sleep with. So that was one of the cases. I was like, oh yeah, whatever you say. Um, so yeah, this is how it goes. I guess we can play now.
Hey.
Okay, it kind of works. Yeah,
5,
maybe.
6, 7, 1. 5, 6, 7, 1.
Like, this obviously went viral for a reason. It was at this moment that everybody collectively on the internet went, oh, dude. Like, dude, I am so sorry. This is not going to work out in your favor. My friend, this is very, very bad. And you can see it in his eyes. Does this look like a happy man? No, not in the slightest. Like, you can't go on press tours saying how amazing your open marriage is when this is your instinctual reaction to seeing a dude dance with your wife. Like,
So again, with all due fairness, they did not have a press tour saying how great their relationship was. Like, I don't know. That's just a really poor framing of it. Like, instead, he went on a press tour to talk about like his many different projects, and while there, he was pressed to defend his relationship. That kind of sucks. It seems really disingenuous to kind of frame it that way yet again. But all right, she's calling it a press tour to defend or to proclaim how great his relationship is. That's just, you know, man, like I want to give her more benefit of the doubt, but she keeps doing it in this video. I don't know.
I agree. You make really good point. I like that.
everything is crumbling around you. Now, a little later in the video, he pipes in. You just have to hear what he says.
I was getting footage for his next cuck video on me. Thanks. I see what's going on here.
Oh my God, he let his
Pause.
wife dance with another
Bro.
man.
He said in what? You want to slap
That
her
made it
next?
sound like we
Pause.
was grinding or some shit. Like, yo,
So he said that during the stream, and he actually called it because, as she mentioned, like this no doubt set the internet on fire. Like it did. Like he was getting blasted for this same thing for a long time, and a bunch of people were saying, you know, this is him being cucked. I don't know that it is. Like I've definitely let my girl who enjoys dancing a lot more than I do, like dance. Like, you know, why would I want to say like no because I suck at dancing and I'm on this level? You can't actually do this dancing that's beyond what I can do. Like, what the hell? I'm secure in that it's just dancing. It's not flirting. And that's what it seemed to be in this stream when I watched it. And, you know, hey, subsequently, this dude has only met her this one time. So
Yeah. And
I don't know. It doesn't seem to be the next step, and everyone was correct.
And I will add more to this. Another context that would be valid for me to say, oh, it's not really okay to dance is if like dancing is just the first step. They dance in front of me, but then because they dance, they're all warm up and excited, and on my back they go just F around, you know, and have some bedroom fun. Then it's wrong. It's like a trigger, like it's not right, you know. That would be the kind of boundaries. Again, context matter, what's going on matter a lot, and like it feels like in this video Brett is not really considering at all context and purpose, I assume. I don't have much more to say. DC, do you want to add more to this?
No.
That whole situation is just incredibly uncomfortable, but he literally points it out. Like, this is such sad and insecure behavior. Like, he knows how weird this relationship is. He knows that he can't hide the fact that it makes him uncomfortable, so he has to address it because he knows people online are going to talk. That's why he says, oh, yeah, they're going to make some cucked video compilation. Obviously, dude, because, again, look at your face. Do you look happy? No, your wife is dancing with another man. If you were not so publicly in an open relationship, cheering this on, saying this is so amazing, yes, let's celebrate this, nobody would think anything different. Oh, maybe she's just dancing with a friend, whatever. Who cares? But we all know because you made it public. Destiny, like, dude, you could have predicted this from the start. Somebody commented and said, bro looks so happy. This is definitely a healthy relationship. Somebody else said the fact that this dude thinks that he isn't the authority to give out any life or relationship advice is hilarious. Somebody else said Destiny's
So that's the other thing too. Like I haven't mentioned it yet, but like a million times Destiny has said, like, I don't think anybody should follow my lifestyle. Like I am 100% different than everybody else. Like what I do for a living is so outrageous. The way that my brain works is different. I don't recommend this for anybody. Like he is in no way saying that like everybody should be doing this. So I don't know. Again, I get that these are comments, but she's like cherry picking ones that she thinks work. I don't know. It feels like that way she can use the argument without saying this is my actual argument.
Yeah.
You know, they are uninformed comments.
Yeah, and on top of that, I'd like to say that it's some kind of pattern with her videos. Most of the comments she highlights are online with what she thinks and say. They always reflect her point of view. And sometimes she will showcase one that is kind of different, but it's just sometimes. And every comment that's follow online with what she says outweighs the one comment that is opposition. And again, this is a popular trend on both sides of the spectrum, right or left. So yeah, that's something worth mentioning, I think. What do you think, Dre?
Yeah, I completely agree. But I guess it is kind of hard to go both sides on, a definitely biased media source. Like, fair enough. That is what they hired her to do. So, fair
Yeah,
enough. She's doing what she's supposed to do.
exactly. Do you want to add more, DC?
No, you guys can go on.
Body language says it all here. He is incredibly closed off, irritated, and isn't engaging in their behavior because he is feeling extremely powerless in this situation. Yes, and it does
Pause.
not take a genius to figure out how this.
I think feeling powerless and that kind of stuff, like the last line or so, was reading it too much. Like the first few things, okay, I can see it, I can get it, but it's like adding more to what it is in reality, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know how I would react in that situation. Like if the chat is basically saying, like, have your wife dance with the dude. Like, I don't know. Would I be happy about it? Would I sit there like, okay, so if I say no, then I look insecure. If I sit here, I look cucked. Like, I don't know. Is there a good solution to that? I'm not sure what it would be.
to be honest, I'd rather be insecure because sometimes insecure is fine. It's like
Fair enough.
sometimes like survival instinct is better. Like sometimes you're like, oh, I can do anything until you can't. That's the same idea. Like someone insecure usually it's to protect themselves. It's sad to say there are other ways you can do it, but that's a defense mechanism. You set boundaries and you may sound insecure for many. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I agree.
Relationship ends. But before we get into that, here's one more clip from the Whatever podcast when they were on, and it aged perfectly. Like, I'm sure he is punching himself over saying this.
God forbid this happens. Will it be fun if this open relationship ends up causing things to fall apart down the line if one of you guys finds yourself in a...
Also, guys, this is Sovereign Bruh on Twitter, and I've talked about him before. His tweets are fantastic. He seems great. He's dope. I reacted to his stuff on Whatever Pod before. That's who he is if you need a face behind the tweets, but this is good.
An entanglement, so to speak, with with somebody who you might find a deeper connection with than the other person. Like if that causes the relationship to fall apart, that probably wouldn't be very fun.
No, it would be horrible and it would be sad. But monogamous relationships have the same issue, right? How many times do you have like a man that falls in love with a coworker or a woman that falls in love with a friend that she spends too much time with? Like monogamous people have to put up a lot of boundaries in their relationships too because they worry about the same types of things,
Do you guys have a high degree of confidence that your marriage will last for decades?
I mean, I married her without a prenup, so I hope so.
The
Pause.
tension. Yeah, I hope so.
No.
I don't know. So, Multi, you've mentioned that the only way that you would get married now is if you were with the person for 20 years now and you truly trusted them.
Yeah.
Would you still require a prenup at that point? Because she seems to be implying the fact that he got married without a prenup is really stupid. Like she's going, like the fake laugh. And it's like, okay, come on. I thought you guys were above that. But fair enough. I don't know. Do you think the prenup is the only way to be responsible?
Yeah, I think it's important, and especially for you guys, because I feel like the laws in USA are much worse than here in Canada. But
Yeah.
I think it's something important.
But you would kind of take from this that both she and the previous guy who asked about it would be concerned that she would be somehow going after money or something like that because of the divorce, right?
Yeah, safety nets. I think a prenup.
Well, they didn't sign a prenup, but she signed the divorce papers and she signed a postnup. She's not going after any of his money, and they did agree on that. So that doesn't seem to be a concern.
Yeah.
Some people do that. It seems weird, but I also think it would be super weird to be like, hey, I trust you. I want you to be a partner in my life, but you can't have any of my money if this doesn't work out. I don't know. I think that would also be like super awkward. And then, how are you going to predict how somebody would react in a breakup? Would they sign a postnup? Probably not. They probably, if your past relationships haven't ended well, this probably won't end well either. So I could definitely see like how awkward it would be to get somebody to sign that after the marriage has dissolved. But it seemed to be what he was implying is like, are you concerned with this? Like, did you get a prenup? That seems more like you'd be concerned that it would end to me rather than going in kind of open-heartedly. And then it turns out, she's not after his money. She signed a postnup, so
But
that doesn't seem to be a concern.
It's
So
rare.
what it does seem rare.
And
You're right. And what they are doing seems rare. And they've pointed that out numerous times.
And on top of that, as I said, in USC, based on what I've heard, again, it's from Red Pillar's content. I haven't really read through laws and stuff, and maybe I'm wrong because it's coming from a not amazing source, but based on what I've heard from Red Pillars and stuff, most of the time, even if it's the man that divorces, because the laws are made this way, it's the girl that would get the money. It's the girl that would get the kids. So
that seemed to be where all the Red Pillars were going, like in the beginning of this, like the announcement of the divorce. They're like, oh, she's going to take him for everything. Here, everyone look at this clip. And they played that exact clip time and time again to say that, she's going to get all of this money. He's stupid. And well, it turns out that's not the case.
On top of that, like, based on what I've heard, like, even if it's a woman that's separated, she still goes out with the kids and the money. But again, apparently that's a lie. That's what you said. That's a lie. That's not how it works.
Well, they did a postnup, so it's like a prenup. Like, a prenup is you agree to like basically leave with what you had. You're not taking a part of it, even though like you may be sacrificing for this. Postnup is kind of the same thing. It's kind of like a divorce settlement, but it's kind of after the fact. But they each are thriving streamers that both are like multimillionaires. So yeah, they didn't actually go after. She didn't go after 50% of his money or anything like that. They're all good. They agreed to basically just leave with what they have, and he actually gave her like $100,000 to help with the citizenship process. She paid that back before they went to like their last thing of therapy, and then after that, he still wanted to proceed with the divorce. He is the one who initiated it, and then she signed a postnup saying that she was not going to go after any sort of money or anything like that. Basically, it's settled. It's just done. So I don't know. It's just interesting. A lot of the Red Pillars were basically saying like, he's so stupid. He's going to lose everything in this. And maybe they're right. If he hadn't kind of known who he was getting into this relationship with and whatever, it is like a 5-year relationship. It's not like they just met each other or whatever.
Yeah. And yeah, like, I said it like, you don't know until you get burned. And if you get burned, it's too late. So always be aware and ready for like the worst, despite the halo effect I was mentioning before. Like, I used to be very naive to think stuff would work out, and a lot of things didn't work out. That's just a sad truth. So yeah, like, prenup, important. Do one. Even if you trust the person, do one that's a safety net. And again, in the USC, based on what I've heard, maybe not in the Disney case, but in other cases, men are the losing party because that's how it is. Here in Canada, or at least in Quebec, it's a bit different. It favors the less fortunate, but there's a lot of loophole and ways you can hack it and like make it work in your favor. And that's why it's also kind of bad here in Quebec, Canada, because there are loopholes again, and there's many ways you can like get around stuff. So like, to give you a perfect example, my own situation where my mother was the earner because my father was a student. They had me very young. She needed to pay pension until I became fully autonomous. Until I became fully like, I had my 100% autonomy, where I had my apartment and like that job that was stable for a few months. So for like 19, 20, 21 years, I won't give away too many detail, but I was a young adult when I finally became a man, if we can call it that way. And my mother needed to pay pension to my father, and my father, for like 10 years of the years my mother was paying pension, for around roughly 10 years, my father was earning probably 3 times my mother's salary. Probably more, because I really suck at maths. 3 times is like bare minimum. So he got rich with that extra money from the pension. So that's some kind of loophole. If you're not the earner got to pay you, even if the earner doesn't earn that much. And it's sad because my mother never really had that many money. She was considered an earner just because my father was a student. And it's sad because she wasn't making that much money. Even as of today, she's not making that much money. I do more money than her. So that's the very sad part with loopholes and that kind of stuff. That's why always be prepared. I'm wondering if I was clear on that, or if I sounded crazy.
Yeah, yeah. You
You're clear, man.
Yeah, clear.
So yeah, that's why I think even after the 20 years of probation, and maybe less depending on the case, I will still do a prenup.
Wow, you're viewing a relationship as probation until possibly 20 years plus on. Then it could be marriage. I don't know if many people are going to be signing up for this 20-year probationary period, man.
Then they will need to accept either to leave or to accept to not be married. I can be committed without being married. That's the other thing. Like if I get into a relationship with someone, even if we are not married, I'm my focus is you. Like marriage is just like that ultimate seat that I want to do only once. If I take that jump, that leap, because this is a leap of faith, and I don't want to do it twice or 3 times or whatever. I don't trust enough. Anyhow, I guess we can move on.
Way that they grabbed each other's hands. Also, yes, monogamous relationships can fall apart. People do break up. People cheat. That is a sad fact. It is a sad reality of the world. However, you can't equate that to your open marriage, where you are intentionally letting other people in. You are intentionally saying, I'm going to go sleep with other people, no strings attached. No, it is a lie to believe that sex is completely devoid of emotion, that you will not form connections with the people. No, that is an utter lie. You are setting your relationship up for failure by being in this kind of marriage. So yes, monogamous relationships do fall apart. That happens every single day. We talk about celebrity breakups all the time, but this is a totally different situation, considering that you have no boundaries to begin with. None at all.
I think pause.
I just somehow put it back to 0. That sucks. I will try and find the spot, but please go on with what you're saying.
I think it's unfair to say there's literally no boundaries, because we covered it earlier in the questions, but sometimes even open relationships do have boundaries, and the way she framed it, they never have. So again, misframe.
Well, also that there's no strings attached, or that there's no feelings. I don't know. Like, it would still be considered an open relationship if you two were to both like cheat with the same person or whatever, invite a third person in. I don't know. Like, you could still have feelings, but that wouldn't necessarily change your relationship. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm giving people too much credit that they could do that, but it seems like certain people are saying that they would be fine with that. That's not hurting their relationship. So I don't know. I don't see why she has to go like super negative on this. That like, no, you're saying there's no feelings whatsoever. They're not saying that. Just again, like, there are different types of friendships. Perhaps you have friends at work that are slightly different friends than, your friends from childhood, that are slightly different than, like, say, your best friend that you talk to daily. I don't know. That isn't saying that, you view all friends the exact same way. I think they're viewing a lot of this relationship that particular way, is why he used the analogy of friends earlier. Perhaps you can do certain things with certain people, but within what your partner deems acceptable. I don't know. I really don't like the way she keeps framing this.
I agree with you. So I guess we can play now.
I'm hoping I got it back to the right spot. It's around there. But sorry, when I hit play, I somehow hit the bar up at the very top.
Literally everybody was anticipating and predicting and expecting. She has left him. And yes, it was for another guy that she was sleeping with. Just as everyone told him, tried to warn him. Here's a tweet about it. Drama alert. Destiny's wife, Melina, who he's in an open relationship with, reportedly ran off with a man in Sweden. And
so it's, again, partially true. And then she's saying, like, his wife left him. Sort of, like, if you want to get into the details, I can kind of explain it, but he's the one who requested the divorce. I don't know if that means that she left him. Like, so she got deported, or not deported. She had a tax issue in Sweden, where she's actually from, where they required her to come home and, like, pay tax and stay there for X amount before she can leave the country. So while she was there, she did invite another guy basically to live in her house. It was like she basically had another whole relationship going on there. That's what Destiny didn't know about. When he found out that, like, she actually has this guy living in the house with him, that's where he said, like, okay, I've been too lax on, like, my boundaries, but this is too much. He goes into it further, but that's essentially where he draw the line. Now she's framing it as she left him. Technically, she didn't. She just wanted to have, like, basically a second husband or a second relationship and their relationship, but she didn't leave it. She's just not getting his approval to do something that they might have approved of. I don't know. It's just different. It's just the way that she's framing this, again, seems dishonest to me.
I agree, and like the way you frame it is the core issue I got with open relationship. It's because you,
for sure, and it'd be my concern why I don't think I could do it.
Yeah, like you said, boundaries, but then you're getting used to be outside of the box, right? So it's alien for you that something could be considered, it's not a good boundaries, or it shouldn't be a boundary, you know. So that's why it's like it's really hard to gauge, because sometimes you give a finger to someone, he will take the arm. That's also the other risk of open relationship. But again, we said it, even monogamy has issues, even like normal traditional relationship do have issues here and there. Anything else to add, DC?
No, you guys can continue.
Okay.
obviously, I don't want to just sit around and laugh about this because all heartbreak sucks. It is painful. I'm sure he's going through a lot. But dude, you could have predicted this from the start. We all have. Like, just the way that you presented the relationship publicly showed that it was not stable, that you were not confident in it, even though you really wanted to prove to everybody that you did feel confident. Like, you allowed your wife to walk all over you and run around the world with other men. That is not a winning strategy. Somebody commented and said, how is bro still not red-pilled? Somebody else said, open relationships don't work and never have. That's the tweet. We could just literally end the episode with that. Thank you for watching the comment section. If you want to see more videos. Now, if we look at these leaked messages, which is how everybody found out that the relationship was ending, you can clearly see Destiny admit that the lack of boundaries in his relationship was the death of him. So this is from a Discord channel, I think, but it says, Destiny, I'll have to have a small convo when I'm back about things. I'm not going to.
So that's the other thing that sucks. She's saying the leaked messages, they aren't leaked messages. Like, he just went through, like, basically giving her divorce papers, and then he posted this message in his Discord. It's not leaked. Like, it's literally, like, if you messaged in your Discord, like, is that now a leaked message, or is it a message? Like, I don't know. Again, it's just like the framing of it. It's like, he gave an update to his Discord, which was this, and then he later said, you know, that was really raw. I probably shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have aired our dirty laundry out in Discord. But it's not a leaked I don't know. To me, a leaked message means something else, but maybe I'm being too pedantic here.
I agree with your definition. It's not really leaked. Leaked would be like a third party or one of the two revealed something they shouldn't have. We can play, I guess.
To nuke Melina or anything, but the last 2 months and 2 weeks have been a massive mind for me. Watching her become obsessed with a toxic/abusive guy. When I visited Sweden last, he gave Mel an ultimatum to divorce me and then threatened to kill himself when she didn't do it, among 20 other abusive, manipulative things he's done, and endlessly make excuses for him, so I'm out. And then here's another one. Destiny, Josh, me discovering boundaries was the death knell in this relationship. This proves every point I've ever made. Girls can leave you for jobless, manipulative losers if they just play their cards right. I wanted a massive therapy session to see if I could express myself better and iron out some boundaries, but it's hard for me to ask for everything after I've been a pushover for so many years. That's genuinely very, very sad. Like, after reading that, I do have empathy for him there because obviously he got himself into this situation. He did it himself. He has to take responsibility for that. But he's going, holy crap, I can't even save this now. I mean, he honestly has the perfect takeaway from this, saying it's hard for me to ask for anything if I've been a pushover for so many years. Like, yes, how do you expect your partner to respect you in any way if you've never demanded that before? And to be even more...
Sorry, I was talking and I had a muted mic. Yeah, I mean, like, that's a really good point. Like, one of the issues is, what if you do have feelings that come up, like it is unanticipated, but now you realize, like, oh no, this isn't my boundary. It's actually like much closer, or however you want to frame that. Like, no, I thought I'd be okay with this. It turns out I'm not. Is that now going to be a deal breaker for somebody else if you've agreed that, you know, you're open to X? Like, hopefully they would be willing to accommodate. It sounds like his wife wouldn't have been, you know, like that is a huge problem. Like, you know, you can always open a little bit more, but can you ever put that genie back in the bottle or whatever?
No, it's too late. Once you gave freedom, if you try to take away, that will create a deal breaker, I think. That's why if you give too much, they will break you. They will eat you alive. That's how I see it. Maybe I'm too pessimistic, maybe I'm too negative, but I think I'm being realistic. What guys think about that?
Yeah, you're being realistic.
Okay, I guess we can play.
Honest, how do you expect her to respect you if you've never given her reason to respect you? Because you've been sleeping with other women and allowing her to go off and do whatever she wants and saying, yeah, you know, you're not enough for me. That's not reason to...
I don't know. That would be like saying, like, anytime that anybody cheated, it's because they don't respect you or you're not enough. Like, I would have to think that some of that is like the right place, the right time. Like, I don't think it's necessarily like a lack of respect, or you didn't like put up the correct amount of respect throughout your entire relationship. It's like, no, this person was probably weak and made a really bad decision at the time. I don't know that is your fault for not setting up like respect. Like, it could be this person is weak-willed or has a problem saying no, or perhaps other issues, but it doesn't necessarily go with your amount of respect that you have demanded throughout the relationship. It seems weird to me. I don't know, but they did have boundaries set up, and it sounds like this guy was outside of that. She chose not to tell him about that.
And I got a story very similar where one of my good friends, he had the mother of his child. Basically, their relationship was weird. One time, he did something she didn't like. He basically didn't tell her something. It wasn't a cheater on that at that point. It was a cheater prior, but not on that specific relationship. But her, as a payback, she decided to sleep with 3 guys, and she was proud of it. She was like,
wow.
You should have told me something. Because of that, I sleep with many people.
Even if it's threefold payback, that seems a bit harsh.
So there are people that are like that. Like, oh, that's my payback, so it's okay. It's like, bro, when you start that road where it's about payback, it's no longer about love. You're just hurt and you want to hurt back. It's not good.
Yeah.
And that destroyed my friend because he did cheat in the past, so he kind of got it and he defended her for doing that. And I was like, bruh, it's no excuse. Even if you cheated on her, which you did not, you did cheat on others though, but you did not cheat on her. That was no reason for her like to cheat with 3 guys like that. It's like, bro, no, it's out of disrespect. I think it's out of vengeance and like, yeah, that's toxic. Let's put it the right way. It's toxic. I'm wondering if you guys want to add more to this.
No, I'm thinking we just kind of go on with the video. We're almost done with Brett Cooper's section.
Yeah.
Respect you, and everybody was warning him, but sadly he had to learn the hard way. And not to rub it in too hard, guys, but I can't do this episode and not include it, but it's come out on Twitter now who she left him for. And guys, this is the guy in Sweden who she's leaving him for. I mean, come on. Like, there's a video that goes along with this as well. That's his beautiful wife. She is stunning. She left Destiny for that. It's just
And that's the thing. Oh, so that is her dress that he's wearing. Her chat was willing to pay them like super chats to have him wear her dress. So it's not like he just goes around wearing like dresses like that. Although he may. I don't know. I don't know a lot about this guy. But yeah, and Destiny kind of goes into this and like why it so it's different. So when they got together, I think she was like 20. So I think she's like 25 now. They've been together for like 5 years or something like that. What she probably wanted at 20 is probably different than what she's looking for now. Destiny is, I think he calls himself partially autistic. I'm not sure if he actually is, but he calls himself like on the spectrum. He views relationships as kind of transactionary. He fully admits that he is not like most people. He doesn't treat relationships like most people. He's very hard to deal with for that reason. He's very standoffish. He streams like 14 hours a day. He doesn't have a lot of time for people. And it appears that she was looking for something else because this other guy, he literally is just with her like 24/7. And he seems to be completely about every one of her emotional needs and just being there for her. Maybe she's discovered that, that is kind of what she needs. And she needs somebody who is needy as opposed to really hands off. I don't know if I would have been able to predict like what I'm looking for at the age of 20 or whatever.
I agree.
But
I agree.
Destiny is like a multi-millionaire. Like, he is definitely more alpha than this guy who, when you saw him, he doesn't exactly appear like super alpha or anything like that. And apparently he's not like rolling in the dough or anything like that. And she could have taken Destiny for a lot of his money as well, but she makes her own money. She appears to be the breadwinner in that relationship. I don't know. It appears she might be looking for something that he emotionally can't provide for her. That's sad, but I feel like that's how most relationships kind of end. Hopefully there's not the lying and moving somebody else in, but it is kind of, you realize what you need. And if somebody else can't give that to you, you need to try and find it elsewhere, or, you're going to eventually end this.
Yeah. And I can relate to that. Like, even 4 years ago, I was very different. Like, now I don't have that many standard, but I got more standard than I used to because I know what I want and what I'm seeking for, and I know what kind of person I want the mother of my kids to be. So I'm very different. And like, talk to me 4 years ago, I don't care about red flag. At that point, I will take whoever wants to be with me. And talk to me now, I'm more selective, but I'm not that harsh, if you know what I mean. Like, I just have more standard. I just know exactly what I'm seeking for. And 4 years ago, I wasn't really like.
Yeah, 4 years ago, you didn't have the 20-year probationary period. Now you do.
You're right on that. But it is, I mean, like I said it, like, marriage is like the ultimate level. And again, that may change if I find the right person. That may change, but I gotta find the right person, if you know what I mean. And even there, like, me, like, getting married after 1 or 2 years of relationship, that will never happen. Because this, I know this is like something that won't change. It's just too fast. You don't know that person well enough at that point. It's step by step. You need to take it slow. And I used to think that pacing does not matter. I used to be like, oh yeah, I get someone and then eventually we do this and that. Now I'm like, let's take our time, no rush. I changed. 4 years ago, I was rushing through things, and now I no longer do that. Anyhow, I think we can play the video.
It's so bad. I truly don't have words. I mean, the fact that she chose this over her husband speaks volumes. Like, so many men have been conditioned to believe that standing up for themselves and setting boundaries with women in relationships is wrong and some form of toxic masculinity, and women, get all angry about it. But it's really the opposite. A good woman will respect that strength. They will be attracted to it. And most importantly, they will respect you for it. So do not be a pushover. Please don't be a pushover. And do not believe the lies from people like this that being in an open relationship is the best way to go about having a marriage. Because obviously, it's not.
The sad thing is, like, he has never said that's the best way to go about having a marriage. He, in fact, like, prefaces it every time by saying, like, hey, this is not for everybody. This is not anything that I'd recommend. And I wanted to include a clip of him actually saying this as well. So this is like a 2-minute clip. It's the second time that he's met ABBA in person. This is the same gentleman who danced with his wife a little bit earlier, but now he's in purple. This is after he announced the divorce. ABBA's here looking all awesome. And yeah, they're going to kind of just talk about a couple of regrets for like 2 minutes, and then this is over.
Most likely, I'll get in another relationship. It will almost certainly be an open or poly one, just because that's like the lifestyle I gravitate towards, and it'll probably end. I doubt that it's unlikely that the next person I date will be my life partner, and when all of this happens again, it'll be the exact same things, where poly open relationships don't work. These girls are going to dump you because it's open, and then we break up, and they'll be like, oh, look, see, we predicted everything. And I was like, okay. Yeah. What about like Steven Crowder's relationship that just ended? They were monogamous for 10 years. What about my other 4 monogamous relationships?
I think the difference for most people, and I probably count myself in that, is that we just don't have models of polyamorous open relationships that seem to work in our lives. And so when we hear about this funky...
I agree with what he said. Like, we see more failure than succeed. That's why I say, like, in general, there's more divorce, even if my experience is a bit different, because my mother has been married for, like, at that point now 15 years, and my grandparents 50 years. But again, I tend to focus on how the rest of people are, not necessarily my bubble, because my bubble is different. So yeah, if I would see more polyamorous crap work, I would be all in for it, but I don't.
Yeah, but how often do you know what really goes on in people's bedrooms? Like, do you know that, like, a wife isn't okay with, like, her husband going to a massage parlor once a week or once a month or something like that? I don't know. I don't know what's going on in people's bedrooms. I know, you know, they're basically giving up the appearance that, you know, they are traditional and that they have boundaries, but who really knows? Like, that might be what's keeping some relationships together. I don't know. Like, I think when you look at normal relationships that aren't supposedly open, still those marriages end in about 50%, which is really sad. But I don't know that those other 50% that aren't gone aren't staying together for other reasons. Like, do we really know what percentage of relationships work out? It does, unfortunately, appear that most of them do not work out for a lifetime.
Yeah, I agree. So, do you want to add more, DC?
No, you guys can continue.
Okay.
Thing that looks so different and goes against the very traditional and way we've only seen it work around us. It's hard for people to be open to that idea. I don't know any examples in my personal life that work, and I don't think most people who are watching know, because if you're not around these people enough, how would you ever find out? But we do have examples of monogamous relationships that work. So that's why we think, all right, well, listen, why would I think your model functions when the only ones I've ever seen are these ones that function?
Yeah, and I think that's fair. But the problem is, like, the level of conviction and condescension that comes from somebody. Like, if somebody was like, so for instance, like a comment was like, man, that sounds wild, but like, I mean, if you guys are like f***ing other people and everything, like, yeah, it seems like it just seems like it would be like a lot more stressful. Like, there's like a lot more chances for things to like not work. If that was like a comment, that's fair. I totally get that, right? But it's not that. It's like, when you do this, like, the nature of females is this will always blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I mean, okay, dude, yeah.
Okay, that's probably the more extreme criticism from, like, you know, red pillars generally. But what do you think to the more middle, you know, people who are just like, I don't know, from like a time perspective and emotional needs perspective, it just doesn't... It doesn't seem to track on, because yeah, there's some people who do the extreme stuff with female nature, blah blah blah. But a lot of other people are just saying, like, I don't think that's a functional way to build a bond and like grow and start to trust, because you always have somebody else you can run to when your emotional needs are not met. You always have somebody else that you can confide into or get your sexual satisfaction from, thus pulling you away from your A relationship, which should be your priority. You know, what would you say to those?
Yeah, I mean, I understand that take. I think I say as much on stream. I don't know where this impression comes from that. I don't know if you've ever said this, but I see a lot of people saying, like, oh, like, this is why Destiny needs to stop, like, telling everybody to do poly to open relationships. I've said like 1,000,000 times, like, I don't recommend any part of my lifestyle for anybody. Everything about my lifestyle is like pretty exceptional, like outside the norm or whatever. So yeah, I don't even know if most people would gravitate towards or enjoy this particular type of thing. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. Yeah, people are like, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I would ever do this. They're like, okay, yeah, you don't have to. I don't think I'd even recommend it. But
thank you for sharing this clip, Gray. That's amazing. I gotta say that you gotta
just wanted to
find
add
more
that little
videos.
extra bit on there just to kind of get Destiny's own words, just since I thought Brett was kind of changing them a little bit. I just wanted to make sure that he gets his own words saying, I never said everyone should be doing this. I never said this is the way to do it. He knows what he wants, and sadly, it didn't work out this last time.
It's a receipt. Receipt. I think it's receipt. Anyhow, Gray, you are amazing. Thank you a lot for sharing. I really liked the discussion we had tonight. Did it go the way you thought it would go?
Yeah, kind of. I was kind of hoping Tiamat would be in here since he seemed a little bit more fiery about anti-Destiny, anti-open relationship. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think I had a slightly different opinion than you guys, so it was really fun hearing kind of your take on it. I enjoyed it, man.
Yeah, that was fun. Are you looking forward for all the decays we will have next month?
Oh yeah, I think this will be awesome.
I cannot wait for that as well. Anyhow, what do you have going on, DC, on your part of the internet?
I think I have a new premiere coming up. It's for some characters that I made. It's pretty much just going over some super villains that I created. Yeah, I do that a lot on my Discord server. I'm not sure if you guys have seen. Probably not, but yeah. And that's about it, really.
Well, thank you a lot for joining us. I will be the one unlisting after because last week you did, so it's my turn to unlist later on. So thank you a lot, DC. You're amazing. I'm glad to see you. You are doing you. So what about you, Gray? What do you have going on your side of the internet?
Not a ton. I'm going to actually release a video sometime in the near future. But yeah, every Thursday we do Thinkers on that darn Kiddas channel. So check that out. And then randomly there will be a video at some point.
When is the future first gaming stream you plan on doing?
That's a good question. Also, eminently in the future, I need to learn OBS a little bit better so that I can capture it slightly better than throwing it through StreamYard. When I do that, I can't get the audio, so I'd like the audio to come through. So, yeah, it's going to take me a minute to get that all set up, but soon, definitely this next year.
This is good news. I cannot wait to see some Gray playing some games. What is the first game you plan on playing?
I'm not sure. I'm playing Diablo 4 right now, but some pretty awesome ones are coming out in the start of the year. So I don't know. I might stream a new one. I'm not sure.
Is it as bad as what I heard?
I dig it, but I'm kind of Diablo stan. Like I really dug 2 and 3. So yeah, 4 seems like more of the same if you like that. But yeah, I don't know. I've definitely heard the criticism as well.
Well, this was a great stream as usual. Anyhow, I hope everyone enjoyed. Let's end this for today. And that was a great last stream for 2023. I wish I could do like a new year stream, but because of my job, I'm effed. I work over the weekend, so I'm kind of screwed on that. Anyhow, let's end this.
Next week we get the New Year stream. I mean, it's the new stream of the year. I mean,
yeah,
you know. But yeah, I don't know. It kind of works, right? I don't know. Maybe
kinda.
Yeah.
January 2nd, right?